I've given this kind of a provocative title in a way, and I hope there is some people in the room going, well, no, it is a PC, or a PC is better, or maybe you're a user of Windows Surface tablets or Android tablets and you've got a completely different perspective on what a tablet is. I hope there's some of those people in the room. You may be a fan of Star Wars as well, and so you've got to sort of think about it as a certain point of view in what I'm presenting today in terms of the iPad being the ideal tablet. And for me, the iPad is not a PC, it's very much a different device. And I've seen a lot of confusion in schools and businesses, etc., who come to the iPad with a mindset of, and tablets in general, with a mindset of, well, I know how to use a PC, I've been using it for 10, 20 years or whatever. Oh, the iPad can't do this, and this tablet can't do this, it can't do that. And I sort of say, wrong perspective. Like I said, you may have a different perspective. Things are different depending on your point of view if you're familiar with Empire Strikes Back. So that's sort of some of my premise. There's two kind of points that I wanted to share with you today. There's actually a little ebook that I've put together on this. The first one is how the iPad is different. And again, this is in my opinion and what I've seen in schools and businesses. And then give you a bit of a taste for how you can do work with an iPad. And that applies in some ways to other tablets as well. And it revolves around this idea of workflows for apps. Okay, so we're really talking about this post-PC kind of world. And I'm certainly not talking about PCs being replaced by these devices at all. And you may be familiar with Steve Jobs' analogy of PCs being the trucks these days. In the early days of automobiles, pretty much everything was kind of like a truck. And obviously we've got past that stage with automobiles, and he related that very much to computing as well, with these being much more personalised kind of things. And the interesting thing is that PCs, PC stands for personal computer. And sometimes it's hard for us. I'm certainly not old enough to have any kind of memory, but I've read about it. Your room-sized kind of mainframe computers at the time, maybe before the 80s, when that was a computer. It certainly was not a personal computer. And, once microchips got small enough that you personally could actually buy one of these boxes and do some spreadsheeting or do some word processing, those were the killer apps of that day. So, hence the personal computer was born. And so it's kind of funny to be talking about this being an even more personal computer. I think the post-PC term kind of works fairly well in terms of that. And there's just some distinguishing features, I guess, of a PC. Again, you may have a slightly different idea, but I'll show you a chart of mine. Yeah, so there's a couple of ways of sort of describing, and for me, a continuum works much better in talking about this subject rather than just a sort of split black and white, it is or it isn't. Obviously, I've got my very technical terms here, the full computerness. Hopefully that's not too technical for this crowd. And we're really talking about the advantages of those trucks. Devices that have a lot more storage, a lot more processing power. We're still definitely going to need those around. At the other end of the scale, you have much tinier kind of devices. And one of the real sort of differentiations, I guess, is something like a digital voice recorder that, yes, it's a mobile digital tool. It can really only do one thing, as opposed to multiple things. So that's another sort of thing which I haven't put on the chart here in terms of that continuum. And obviously you can see where I've put the iPad and tablets. And I really also feel that there's been a bit of a journey there. Even a couple of years ago when I first made this chart, that the iPad, just through software updates, et cetera, is probably moving up that scale a bit. There's a few little other things as well. And another way to simplify it might be to say that these kind of PCs here, they're very much, as far as location, they're stuck in one spot. And even if you have a laptop, after 3, 4, 5, whatever hours, you've got to go and plug in, and you're kind of restricted by that in terms of your mobility. The other thing is, when you're using a PC or a laptop, and again, this is my observation, you might have something different, but you tend to use, in my experience, maybe 3 or 4 programs, and that's pretty much it. And those programs, something like Word, or even if you're using something like Photoshop for image editing, you can do a whole lot of things with that one piece of software. More, we call power software maybe. And probably the third thing that is a bit of a differentiation there is the way that files are stored. So you're using a PC or laptop, you've got your folder structures you have to navigate through, you have to remember where you save that file in that folder. And certainly search on laptop and desktop operating systems has got a lot better to help us find those files. But even if you're anything like me, it still can be a bit crazy sometimes to think, did I save that file in time even, or have I lost my work? But that's another feature of more your sort of PC sort of stuff. Comparing that to the iPad, now starting to talk a little bit about how is the iPad not a PC, how is it different? And after that we'll talk about the Wokflows idea. But for me, the iPad is very much different. It's not tied to that desk. So it's got, this kind of mobility. And later on I might even test it and see if I can go outside and take a picture because of the wireless connectivity we're using here for the display. But even just be able to carry it around your arm when you're lecturing, educating, etc. The battery life being 10 hours, suddenly a whole lot of other possibilities open up versus the PC or even the laptop. Okay, it's also much more simple in terms of the interface. So rather than those 3 or 4 apps that can do heaps of stuff, you tend to be using apps that can do maybe 1 or 2 things really well. And that's an important difference to note. As I said, some people, when you come to the tablets or the iPad and you expect it to be able to do what a PC could do, you load even a really good app like Pages or Keynote, etc., which can do increasingly more things, but still more in that bracket of 2 or 3 things really well. And of course the other thing that's differentiate the iPad a bit is in the file system. And again, this is one of the things that can be the biggest frustration when you first make a move to tablets, and especially the iPad, is where's my files? There is no central file system where you can go and look into the folders, etc. And you could kind of see that as a disadvantage. The way it's been designed though is that everything auto-saves for you. So instantly you're not even having to remember, did I save it or not? Have I lost some work, etc. And instead of being saved separately from the program into folders, they're saved on a program by program basis. And that, again, is sort of a change we have to get our heads around. Anyway, so that's a little bit of a comparison about how they differ. And so now I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about actual workflows. So this is my solution, Wokflows. And I should say that's not really my solution. There's a bunch of educators, as I said, some of them in the Slide to Learn community and elsewhere around the world who have cottoned on to this idea. And I think Wokflows is a nice word for it. There are some other terms that people use. But this idea basically of chaining together a series of apps. So rather than using one piece of software on your desktop or PC that, like I said, can do a whole bunch of stuff, that sort of more power software, on the iPad you really need to think about, I'll do one thing in this app, then I'll open in the next app, open in the next one, and do a little series there until you've actually end up with your finished product. And it may sound like it's a longer process, but I've actually found that a lot of the time, and it's partly just the simplicity of the interface, being able to use your finger. And there's one I want to show you guys in a minute, which is based around photo editing. And you can actually do this process probably far faster than you could if you were using, software like Photoshop that can cost hundreds of dollars. Instead, once you've got an iPad, you can spend only just a few dollars and get the apps that you need.